Love Your Wife podcast. It's a Love Your Wife podcast. The Love Your Wife podcast. Love Your Wife. Love Your Wife podcast. The Love Your Wife podcast. The Love Your Wife podcast. Love Your Wife.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by aplanandplace.net. A Plan and Place sells customized planners for homeschool families. They help parents and students breeze through their homeschooling days. There's a planner for every age: early learners, elementary school, junior high, high school, and homeschool moms. Right now, you can get 10% off your entire order if you go to aplanandplace.net/loveyourwife and use the coupon code loveyourwife. That's aplanandplace.net/loveyourwife and use the coupon code loveyourwife. A Plan and Place, homeschool planners to help you breeze through your homeschooling days. My wife absolutely loves this planner. She uses it for our son. We were thinking about homeschooling, but we didn't really have a plan in place. So when we got this planner, it really kind of mapped out the day and showed us where we needed to go. She really loves it. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Frickin' Frack Foods. This is 5-star in a jar, made with San Marzano tomatoes, no sugar added, no preservatives, no seed oils, crafted by hand at small batch production. When you try this sauce, there's no going back. Every time I go to Sprouts, I have to come back with a jar of this sauce, or my wife's upset. She's not really upset, she's more disappointed in me because I should know better. I should bring back this sauce for her. So if you're looking for this sauce, you can go to Sprouts. If you live in Georgia, you can go to Publix. You can go to frickinfrackfoods.com, and they have a nice little cafe in Canton, Georgia. Look them up, frickinfrackfoods.com.
This is Love Your Wife podcast with your host, Dennis Byrne. Today we have a very special guest, Herald Adlet. Harold?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How you doing, Dennis? Appreciate you inviting me on here. Look forward to talking about just what we've been going through in life and also our journey through this thing we like to call marriage.
Yeah. Well, so this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on was one of our mutual friends, Kyle Palestrant. He got married, and he told me that you were officiating the wedding, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know he did that kind of thing, and I was like, well, why did you?
I didn't know I did that either. So. He was like, I was like, oh, I thought I was going to get an invite to the wedding. I was going to be, in the thing up in the front. I didn't think I was going to have to do anything, but he was like, dude, I want you to officiate it. I was like, I've never done that before. What does that look like? So I kind of freaked out a little bit. This is, usually the guy officiating is like, it's a pretty important job,
Yeah.
So I was like, there's no way I'm that guy, but I was able to kind of fill in, and I jumped in that role, and that guy's awesome. His marriage is awesome, and now he's got some kids. So I actually looked forward to the opportunity to be able to get up there in front of everybody and share this new marriage with him and his wife. So it was a cool experience. I don't know if I'd put it on my CV and throw it out there that this is something I do, but it was stressful. But when we got up there and did it, man, it was just me and the buds up there having a good time. So it worked out well. It was good.
Well, you did an amazing job, but
awesome. Appreciate
one of the
that.
things that Kyle said, I was like, why'd you pick him? Like, is that kind of what he does? Like, I didn't know.
Hey, I feel the same way.
Yeah. And he was like, well, we look at their marriage as something that we want to aspire to. And
Awesome.
I was like, well, that's cool. Like, that's awesome. And then I was like sitting there with my wife, like, what the hell, bro?
Why did he ask me?
Yeah, why did he ask me? But it's just one of those things.
Yeah, dude, it's just super huggy. When he did ask me, it was an honor to be able to look back and say that I had something of value that I could add to their marriage as well. So it's exciting to be able to be on here as well, talking to you guys. Dennis, you got a great marriage going on, and I hope that we can share with each other some cool ideas and share with the audience some of the hardships that we've been through and some of the good times, and we could kind of work through it together. So
exactly, that's awesome. So let's start out with how many years have you been married?
So as of January this year, it's 21 years.
That's awesome.
21 years. That's yeah. So we're officially we can drink now. So now we can get through the marriage a little easier, with
Hmm.
a couple beers. But no, it's been a journey, that's for sure. 21 years is a long time, but we've learned a lot and we're still learning. So it's awesome. We love it.
And how many kids?
So we got 4 kids, and like I was telling you earlier, we just sent one off to the military about a month ago. And so we're one less kid here and one open room. Hopefully, I can turn it into an office. We'll see. But it's come full circle. I think this is what we as parents prepare for, or hopefully we do, is to send our kids off on an adventure, and hopefully we did a good job preparing them for that. And again, like we're here to talk about marriage, it's also scary because that's one less kid to bounce some of the stress of life off, and now it's just you and your wife, and eventually it will be an empty nest, and it'll just be you and your wife, which is scary, but it's a whole new experience that hopefully, just like we send the kids off to their adventures, we prepare for our own.
Yeah. So how was that sending off your kid to the military? Was that a proud moment? Were you worrisome?
I,
How'd
I
that go?
I've been asked this a bunch of times in the last couple weeks, just from a bunch of families that want to know what that experience is like. And for me, and this is what I told people, and I'll tell you, I'll be honest. I'm going to be completely honest with you about the
Okay.
experience. So I loved it. I feel like from day one that I'm preparing my kids to leave. And as a parent, I feel that's my responsibility. I don't want my kids to want to stay here. I want them to want to experience life and have a vision for their future, whatever that looks like. And it's my job, I feel, as a parent to prepare them for that future. And if I did a good job, they should want to leave. They should be ready to leave. And even now, I'm getting emotional because the truth behind it is I was ready and I'm still ready, but it's very emotional. My wife obviously took it a little harder. The women in our lives take those experiences a little different because of the relationship they have with our boys. Just like we have a different relationship, Dennis.
Yeah.
Have you seen it with girls and with your wife or with your mother as well? It's a different experience that we have with the women in our lives. So her and him were, they were close, and so she took it a little more emotional. She didn't clean up his room yet. It's still the same way it was when he left a month ago. And so I do get emotional sometimes when I open the door and I still see his boots sitting there on the floor and I see the decorations on the wall and him preparing his life. Like you can see it on the walls with his Air Force stuff and all this cool stuff that he's got, that he's preparing his life for the future and now he's experiencing it. So what an awesome time. I feel it's awesome. I can't wait to hear the stories and the adventures that he's got and is experiencing right now. He's learning so much about life in these first few months at basic training, and I can't wait to hear the adventures. But it's also scary for me as a parent to be like, I want him to be successful, and if I can't be there to help him through that, um, I feel nervous and tense and emotional. So that's the part I think as parents we gotta figure out how to let go is let them make their mistakes, let them make their experience. Once they're gone, that's it, man. It's their life. We're just there, not as parents anymore. I feel once they leave the house, we're able to become more of a friend. And so that is the transitional role that we play as parents is we parent them until they leave. And once they leave, now we become friends. So I can't wait to have a cup of coffee with my son or have a beer with my son and just talk about life together and how we both are experiencing this cool journey.
Well, that's awesome to hear because I never thought about that until you just mentioned it. Like, because I firmly believe, and my kid's 4, right? So I
Yeah.
firmly believe that, I can't really be his friend right now, which is what you said, right? I have to make sure that he does things and I don't want everything to be easy for him. If he tells me he doesn't want to do things, but he's supposed to do them, like, you got to do it because you
Sure.
have to. I don't want to do things I do all the time, you know?
Love it.
That's
Yeah.
life. So, I've never heard it put like that, but I appreciate that take because that's good to know that one day. And you know, when I got older and moved out, and I feel like I had a similar relationship with my father. But yeah, I do appreciate that. And I appreciate you mentioning the fact that that's what we're doing. We're grooming them to be successful without us, right? We need to nurse a kind of independence.
Yes.
Um, and then
Yeah.
at the same time, like you were talking about with your wife, and we talked about before we hopped on the podcast, was, you know, the wife's not wanting to really let go of certain
Yeah.
times of, you know, their child being young, right? So
Right.
you see the pictures all the time, like, oh, stop growing, stop growing. And I'm like, no, you know, grow up. Like, let's go. Let's go
Yeah.
here.
Well, we have been. I mean, it's a problem. It's probably a good thing, but we're always looking for that next step. We're always on to that
Yeah.
next adventure because we feel like we should always be growing. I don't know if it's a problem or not, but I wish one day I open a door and it says, "Hey, this is relaxation. This is what it looks like when you can stop trying to do that." But
Mhm.
we're always trying to move on to the next thing, and so it's tough sometimes. And I think women have a better perspective on it, is that they can sit back and see this growth, and so they're able to kind of live in the moment, and we as men are always ready for that next one. And so I think that's something that's valuable for women, and what they bring to raising our kids is they're able to kind of be there in that moment, with them as they grow. And for women, that's what's cool about your kid is 4 years old. This is the time where he's going to start bonding more with his wife, with your wife, and they're going to grow in that relationship. And as he gets older into the teenage years, he's going to start leaving mom. And it's a, you'll feel it once you get there. But I know there's going to be families watching this that are going through that experience right now. But he's going to start leaving mom and he's going to move towards you in the later years. And so that separation is, like you said, they want to hang on to that relationship so much that it's so hard for them to let that go, because it's already been happening and they already don't want it and don't like it. So this whole, now I gotta, not only do I not want to separate when he's at home, but now I've got to really separate and send him off somewhere. So for women, it's crazy, and for men, it's just like, all right, this is what we've been ready for. So go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So get out of here. So
Yeah, for sure.
it's a crazy experience, and 4 years old is great. I remember waiting for opportunities to discipline my child at that age, because it was so exciting for me. It was so exciting for me to be able. That's my role. And so when they made a mistake, I was like, yes, this is it. I can teach him. This is a teachable moment. And you would always look for those opportunities, like, oh, here he goes. He's going to make a mistake. Oh, I got him. And then I'd be like, all right, let's sit down and let's talk about this. Let's talk about why there's this discipline. And that's, man, you could see on these kids' faces, they're growing and they're learning. And it's such a 4 years old is such a fun age to see the change in them, to see them learning, to see them experiencing life. I can only imagine that's what he's doing now on his own, experiencing those same things. So hopefully now he's got me and mom's talks in his head, telling him and walking him through this stuff. And we'll talk about it later. But I got a bunch of letters from him expressing those type of things, which was really really important, from a family perspective, to hear his side of things
Mhm.
in letters, going through the stress in his life, and he's able to kind of write letters and stuff. So it's been pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I started smiling and stuff like that when you said you're waiting to discipline your kids. I am going through that right now. Like,
Oh, man,
yeah,
such a
because
great
it's like
age.
he's 3 years old, and you're like, oh, he's like, does he get it? Like, I don't know if he gets it, you know. And
Oh,
then now he's telling me like memories. He's like, oh, you
y-
remember this thing that happened? I'm like, dude, that was like 3 months ago. I'm like, all
yeah.
right, you know, maybe he's online now. Like maybe I can get through to him, you know. So
Yeah,
now
listen,
now I'm there.
that's it, man. And the world wants that. The world wants him to be taking the SATs already and picking out of college by the
Yep.
time he's 4 years old. So we're
Mhm.
trying to. The world is trying to grow him up very fast, and then we're surprised when he does. You know what I mean? As parents, we're surprised at how fast they're moving. But if we don't stop, and women are really good at this, we're not. But if we don't stop and just absorb the moments that are happening, it before we know it, we're gonna look back and be like, man, where I wish he was 4 years old again,
Yeah.
because I wish he was teachable, and you're gonna miss it if you don't take hold of those opportunities at 4 years old. When they turn 16 and 17, you're gonna look back and you're gonna wish you had those opportunities back. and which is great to be able to do this kind of thing and just hit off brothers and sisters that are doing this already, to kind of have that opportunity to not miss on that chance.
So this is the reason why I love this podcast, because I feel like I kind of needed that little talk today. Because you know how it is. You're raising a 4-year-old, and sometimes it's great moments. Like we went camping together like a week ago, and it was just me and him. And I was like, "Whoa, what a great moment!" Then I bring him back, and he's losing his mind because I want him to leave a place he wants to stay for like 5 more minutes. And I'm like, "Dude, what the hell? Why is this so hard?"
Yeah, and it's important for people like you in this stage to remember too that they will not remember any of these bad moments. I don't know what it
Okay.
is in our brain. It doesn't allow us, and you can think back on experiences that you thought should have been bad, but they're somehow we turn them positive. Our brains are really good at that, especially as kids, to just
Hmm.
pick out the positive things that are happening. So if you do make a mistake, you do have a bad experience, and maybe you respond how you didn't want to respond, and you're like, oh, did I just in this world that we're living, you're like, oh, did I just mess my kid up? Does he scream for the rest of his life because of what I just did?
Hmm.
And the answer is no. They're not even going to remember that. All I remember looking back, and I remember sports. Sports is huge in our family now. Is
Yeah.
I remember throwing the baseball around with my dad, but I remember too that he was also a coach of mine, and he stepped in a few times. And I know there were bad moments. I know I wasn't a good kid, but I don't remember a lot of it. But what I do remember is the good stuff, the throwing the ball with my dad stepping up and coaching my teams. I don't remember any of the bad stuff. And so it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to do the wrong thing. We're all figuring this thing called life out, and we're going to make a lot of mistakes. But I believe through those mistakes that's life. And if you're not making mistakes and then learning from them, then what the heck are we doing?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it's okay. It's okay to be wrong, and just know that they're going to remember the good stuff. So make sure that there's plenty of the good stuff along with some of the stuff that we screw up on. And like you said with the camp out, I was literally just the other day looking through photos of
Mhm.
me and my son, and our first camp out popped up on that. And bro, that's you probably don't feel it now, but man,
Mhm.
that's one of those experiences that you're gonna look back on and be like, dude, that was our first camp out. Like,
Yeah.
how cool was that? And you're not gonna remember any of the stupid stuff that happened because I know there's crap stuff that happens on
Yeah.
first camp outs too. You're like, crap, I didn't bring the thing, I didn't bring this, oh, we don't
Mm.
have this. But you're never gonna remember those moments. You're only gonna remember the good stuff. So make sure that there's plenty of that good stuff happening. Make sure that we create those good things because those are the memories that are gonna last.
Awesome. Very well put. Yeah, it's crazy. Even with pictures of him when he was a kid, like they'll pop up on my memories. And I remember being so frustrated with the eating phase when he first started taking solids. I remember being like, "Oh my god! Like yesterday he ate so much, and today he only wants a spoonful. Like what the hell?" But then I saw a picture of him with like a little bit of oatmeal on his lips, and I was like, "Damn!" I was like, "That's hilarious."
Yeah, I remember Going out to eat was the
Oh
biggest
yeah.
thing, but I was always told just do it. Like you don't want to because you know it's going to be chaotic,
Mm,
but people would always tell me just do it anyway because that's part of life. That's part of that experience. And if you just stay at home and you don't experience those things, what's the point? So get out
yeah.
and do it. I mean, we got so many of our meals comped at restaurants just because other families would see, all right, they're trying, they're doing a great job. It's a little chaotic, but they're doing it, and people would kind of bless that. And so I think we as parents have opportunities not only to experience what we're experiencing in our own homes, but to share that with other people and to get out of our walls here in our space and start sharing our lives with other people.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so let's get on with the podcast here. I usually like to ask this as my first question. It's a gimme question, okay?
Okay.
The first question is, do you love your wife?
Abs- Absolutely.
All right,
I
there you go.
mean, through 21 years of marriage, if I didn't, it would be a tough time. So
Mm,
absolutely love my wife. She is the hero of our family. Without her, there would be no us. The work that we do, as well, Dennis, this firefighting job that we do is tough enough. To come home and not have a partner in your corner, fighting with you and for you, and uh, through this process of uh, work and job and family. It's a lot. It's a lot on my plate. It's a lot on their plate. And if you're not teaming up and working together, man, it can really be tough and stressful. And so it's so important uh, to love your wife through everything. And I tell my wife all the time through arguments and things like that. And we'll talk about this, I'm sure, throughout the podcast. But
Yeah.
I always tell her like there's always love. I'm always gonna love you. There's no argument that we're gonna have that's ever gonna remove that surface. But sometimes we get in these arguments that it feels like we don't love each other. And
Hmm.
we always have to be reminded of, listen, it's just all surface stuff. The inside of our relationship is there's always love, but we're going to get in our arguments, and that's on the surface, but it never penetrates below that. And so we need to understand that even though the arguments seem deep and real, they're really not, and it's just surface stuff. And never allow that root on the surface to penetrate into that love part of your marriage. Otherwise, that's where problems happen.
Yeah, mentioned the stuff about the job, and it is very stressful. I'm lucky because my wife is a firefighter as well,
Yeah.
so she understands. But yeah, if you don't have, this is one of the reasons why I started the podcast too, because if you don't have that support from the inside of your house, then you're always going to be trying. That's going to be the first thing you're trying to get, right? Trying to get, as a man,
Hmm.
peace, respect, love in your house. If you
Yeah.
don't have those things, then you're going to be like, well, how do I get these things? So it's going to take over everything. So it's
Everything.
just going to be always in the back of your mind. So when those things are done, then you could do things like take classes, right? You can, get better at education. You can start podcasts,
Yeah. You
start
can play the
bands.
guitar. I saw you. Yeah, I saw you play the guitar, man.
Yeah.
That's great. I was in a band too, man.
Yeah, I
Growing
remember
up.
talking to you about that.
Yeah,
You're a drummer, right?
I play the drums and stuff. So me seeing you at these little dive bars and stuff it
Hmm.
brings back some memories. I used to play jazz. We used to go to like jazz bars and stuff like that, and I used to play the drums at jazz bars. But super cool, man. That's one of those midlife crisis things. You get pick up
Oh
that guitar.
yeah,
You're like, dude, I'm always ready to play this thing. So now it's nice, like you said, to have the opportunity, have the time, and be able to be creative. Because if you're stressed out at home, those opportunities don't come very often. So it is very important. And like you said, with the job, some of the experiences I had, especially with young kids, is I would come home and my wife worked too. She worked for Disney back then, and I would come home and she would just hand me the kid. You know what I mean? And it would be me. And we had four, so sometimes I'd come home and man, we ran some crazy stuff, man. I remember one time we ran a call where there was a shooting. We were having dinner with the chief, and there was a shooting, and we got going out, and it was a whole neighborhood that got shot up. We were going in these houses, and there were kids that being shot and all that stuff. And now I got to come home and be dad,
yeah.
and I would tell my wife a lot of times, I would have to sit in the parking lot and just take an hour or so to just switch roles because I would go from that military mindset of shootings and what do I do? How do I save lives and this chaos to dad. You know what I mean? And it wouldn't be fair for my wife. It wouldn't be fair for my kids for me to just jump into that role without that transitional phase. And it's so important as a parent too to be able to be a parent when you need to be a parent and be a firefighter when you need to be a firefighter and be able to separate those two. Um, it's tough, but you can learn how to do it.
Yeah. So I'm lucky because what seemed to be like something that I didn't want to do, which was drive an hour to work.
Mm,
But now that seems to be a good thing.
nice.
That hour is a decompression time before I get home, you know?
Yeah.
So by the time I get home, I'm chilling. I drink my cup of coffee, I'm just listening to music. I get home, it's like, all right, cool. Now I can, be a dad. But the people that live close, I mean,
Yeah.
that's tough. Yeah, you would spend an hour in the parking lot. I don't blame anybody.
No.
It's just like, hopefully your wife understands that because
Yeah.
some wives would be like, well, where were you this hour? And if you're like, I was in the parking lot, they're going to be like, yeah, right. What's her
Exactly.
name?
Yeah, and listen, that's what communication is the key there. I think
Mhm.
you have to understand anything that you need, they're going to need as well. And especially in your case, I mean, your wife's a firefighter too. Is
Yeah.
if you're going to take that hour, then you've got to be just as sympathetic to her needs and give her that same hour. And so, I'm not saying it's easier, but you have that mutual respect going on there. It's tougher, like you said, maybe sometimes with a wife that doesn't understand the job, uh, trying to figure out, well, why do you need an hour? You know what I mean? Why do I have to sit here with this kid for an extra hour after he's been crying this whole time, and I work
Mhm.
too, and it's tough sometimes to be able to communicate because you don't want to tell a lot of things that happen at work. You don't want to bring that stuff home, and so they don't really understand sometimes the stress and the things that we go through at work, and we don't expect them to. So we have to be cognizant of that and give them some space, but be able to communicate it well enough for them to understand that this how beneficial that transition time is for both of us.
Yeah, so I'm curious. So obviously, I can talk to my wife about the calls and stuff like that because she's a firefighter,
Yeah,
and I've heard from different people that that aren't married to firefighters, so they just have a spouse that works a normal job or regular job, and they try to have these you know uh, talks with their partner about the calls, and
yeah,
then sometimes it doesn't go well.
no,
So it's like, all right, well, I can't tell her about that, but she's going to come in and see me act differently at times, whether it be a bad call or, you know, 5 after midnight. So
yeah.
how do you deal with that?
So from the get-go, I mean, already, obviously getting into this job, we knew about the stresses and the things that are coming on. Obviously, we didn't experience them right out of the gate, but it took some time for us to adjust. But out of the gate, I knew PTSD is a big thing, and so I started early with counseling. Not because I felt like I needed it, but I felt like I needed to prepare myself for those events. And so that transition from my own therapy to therapy with my wife. So we try at least once a year, twice a year to get our own therapy and go through. And those are the opportunities to be able. We're not going to speak deep into the calls that we run, but it is an opportunity to kind of give them a framework of what it is that we experience on a daily basis in the job that we have, and then be able to have some cool ideas from the therapist on how to work through that trauma for both us and the spouse. Because a lot of times what happens in the reason relationships break off is because we feel like it's all our fault, or we feel like it's all their fault, and we put the blame either on ourselves or we put the blame on them, not knowing that really it's we both have these stresses. So PTSD doesn't just affect me, it also affects the relationships that I have. And we have to be understanding of not only ourselves and how we deal with stress, but also how we portray that stress onto other people. And that's why when you get married, you got to understand that it's not you anymore. It's us. It's we. And so when you deal with things, you got to understand that you got to deal with them globally. You got to deal with them within your household and how that affects other people. So I believe counseling is a big way to do that. And then you share as much as you can with your wife. Be honest with her. You don't have to tell the stories, the nasty stuff that we run, but you can be honest and be like, "Hey, today was hell." And be honest about it and let her know, "Hey, I need some time to transition. I need some time today to relax." And hopefully you have a partner that understands that and is like, "Yeah, whatever you need, babe, I'll take care of it." And then you can look for those opportunities to serve her as well. So
Yeah, I imagine it would be hard for them too. It's coming after a tough shift and then not wanting to take care of the baby right away. But yeah, that's why you have to have those kind of conversations. And I also appreciate you bringing up the therapy because I
yeah.
think a lot of men. I have
Mhm.
not been with my wife. Obviously, I've talked to a lot of different people about their relationships, but read a couple books and everything like that. But
Right.
yeah, but there's a lot of people, there's kind of a stigma about
Oh,
therapy,
big time. Yeah.
so that's why I appreciate you bringing that up. And it's not
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything, doesn't mean that you're weak. You're trying to figure something out, and you
Yeah.
might be better than somebody who's just biting down their mouthpiece and giving it hell.
And I'll be honest too, counseling and going to those things is the best when you feel like everything's growing great because
Okay.
you could show up there, you're stress free, you're like, "Hey, I got this thing." And then the therapist somehow finds a way to knock you on your butt, and it's like, "Oh
Mhm.
crap, I didn't see that. I didn't see that coming." So I feel like it's better to go start getting counseling now when you think things are good and going well, because then the counseling session isn't stressful. You're not going there because there's a problem we need to fix. You're going there just to share and be open about your relationship and learn some cool ways to deal with stress. I mean, who doesn't want to, everybody's got stress in their relationship. So who doesn't want to have some ideas on how to work through that? So I think if you're going to go to counseling, go now. And now's the best time to go because it's going to be an awesome experience for both of you because it's an opportunity just to share in this experience of life together.
That's awesome. That's once again, I never thought about that at all.
Yeah,
So yeah, wait. I mean, it makes complete sense, right?
yeah,
It's maintenance, right? Before something
yeah,
breaks, you maintain it. Yeah, it makes
absolutely.
perfect sense.
Yeah, awesome.
So let's talk about the beginning. All right. So how did you meet your wife?
Well, she, it was really her that initiated the relationship. She just, she saw me across the room in middle school, and it was like it was love at first sight. She sat in front of me in school, in middle school. I was playing with her hair. I got yelled at by the teacher that I shouldn't be messing with girls like that. And no, I mean, we joke about it all the time, but we actually met in middle school. We lived in kind of the same community. We didn't know each other then, but we met in middle school. And she really didn't want anything to do with me back then. I thought she was attractive, and we had some good times back then, but she didn't want anything to do with me. She was dating other people. But we did meet again in high school. So we were high school sweethearts. We met on the swim team. So I feel like it was my speedo that that got her. You know what I mean? She saw me in the speedo and she was just like, I got to know this guy.
Yeah.
So, but I'm sure it was scary. But anyways, but that, we started in high school and we started dating then. And then 5 years after high school, we got married. We weren't in a relationship for all 5 of those years. We broke up and we got together. We broke up again. The same thing everybody does. And eventually, we got together, and it's been 21 years. So we're high school sweethearts, which is a cool experience. It's something cool to share with people because it doesn't really happen that often. And so I didn't really get to experience much of the world, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so I didn't really have to deal with the stress. Like if for some reason we were divorced and we got to go back out as well, I would be like a fish out of water. I'd have no clue how to survive out there. So I'm gonna hang on to my marriage as long as I possibly can because there is no hope for me on the outside.
All right. So
But
so after high school, 5 years, and then that's when you got engaged or married.
so yeah, so I started doing ENT school at that point, and she was working for Disney, one of the retail stores down here, and we decided to get married my last semester of paramedic school. So I
Okay.
didn't have a job yet, and we decided to kind of tie the knot there, and then I left, right? So we got married, and then I left for fire college up in Ocala,
Okay.
and so we kind of commuted back and forth. We would meet at Disney World, so that's why our little thing was Disney. So we met at
Mhm.
Disney World halfway between, and for 3 months, I did the firefighter thing until I got my firefighter degree, and then we came back together here and started a life down here in South Florida. But listen, it was chaos at the beginning, but I think every marriage is because you're trying to figure out life.
Mhm.
You don't really have a blue book on how to, or a book on how to do this thing. So we try to figure it out as best we could, and so far so good. 21 years later.
Yeah. So far, so good. It's a little inside joke between me and my wife, so she's gonna throw that in my face later.
Nice, I love it.
Uh,
It's true. It's true. Though. I love it. It's true.
No, she said that on our honeymoon, right? So we just got married, went to Australia. Somebody asked, "Oh, how's it? Like, how's marriage so far?" She said, "So far, so good." I was like, "So far, so good." Like,
Yeah,
what is it? It's been
that's
like a
funny.
week. Yeah.
This is
Uh,
nuts.
yeah.
I can only go from here, right?
Yeah, for sure. All
Crazy.
right. So you said 5 years, like on and off, right?
Yeah,
So at what point, like, what made you decide, like, hey, it's time to take the next step and propose to her?
it's a good
Because
question.
like it's kind of like iffy, right? When you're having that on again, off again, to finally cement it and be like,
Yeah.
this is it.
I think it was me more the on and off again thing. I was
Okay.
getting I was getting nervous. I was getting scared. I wanted to make sure that this was the real thing, and I was feeling it, obviously, that this was the real deal. And I think I got cold feet a little bit, just being nervous,
Okay.
and so I wanted to go taste the waters again before I locked this thing down. And it was so good being with her that I didn't want anything else. And so when I separated from that, I knew immediately that I wanted to just be with her. And her dad and her mom were separated at the time, so I called her dad up and asked him for her hand in marriage,
Hmm.
and he said, I did the old school thing. I don't know if people still do that stuff, but I asked him, and he agreed to let me have his daughter, and the rest was history. So,
How did you propose?
oh boy, so uh, it was pretty cheesy. I mean, she probably tells the story a little bit better than me, but uh, so I got a limo driven to the house and
Okay.
kind of surprised her. So we got in a limo and we went to our favorite little park next to our house. I had a friend go earlier in the day and spread rose petals out on this whole path that we
All
took, and I
right.
put a blanket out next to the water, and we had our favorite music going, a bottle of wine, and we had a good time there. And then that's where I proposed to her, and lucky for me, she had a ring already from passed down from generation to generation. So I saved some money.
Oh,
I
yeah.
saved some money on that, so I had to splurge a little bit on the limo. But so I proposed to her there, and then we took the limo to downtown Broward Center, and we did a show down there at Broward Center. Had dinner on Las Olas, and had the limo come pick us up. I had the limo the whole night, and the limo come pick us up, and it was a good time.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I guess
So,
with the show, the limo maybe was kind of like because the way you were talking about it at first, I was like, well, that's not like very like she had to know what was going on, right? But you guys were
well,
going
yeah,
to a show.
right. No, that's
Yeah,
how I sold it. That's how I sold it
yeah,
was that we were gonna go watch. It was almost January, so the Nutcracker was still at the Broward Center,
nice.
and we
Hmm.
like to go to shows every now and then. And so
Hmm.
I thought that would be a great opportunity, and I told her, hey, we're gonna go. I'm gonna splurge, and we did the limo, and I obviously had the driver take us a little detour, and that's when the thing happened. So she was surprised. She had no clue,
Awesome.
which if you're a guy doing those type of things is a must. So if you just did it in a bedroom somewhere because you thought that this would be a great thing, they love the stories. They love to be able to tell that stories, and it's always a cool thing. So put in the work. If you're out there and you're not married yet, put in the work. It's worth it.
Definitely, definitely. All right, so you got engaged. How long before you guys had the wedding?
A year. So we did the
Okay.
classic thing where you'd wait a year and to give her time to prepare for that type of thing. And we got married down here at a local church that we were a part of. And then we had a reception down on the beach, and it was be funny. So our date was January 1st. So
Okay.
if you yeah,
Probably
which is good.
expensive.
It was good for me because I will never forget the date.
Yeah.
But like you said, booking a place on the first, so everywhere was already booked for New Year's Eve,
Hmm.
right? So they all partied out. They were there 2, 3 in the morning, so nobody wanted to rent the place out. Everything was closed on January
All
1st
right.
because
Oh,
they had
that's
already partied. So it took us forever to find a place. And then when they found the place, they were kind of like, well, I guess we'll open it for you, but nobody's going to be there. So it's all on you. So I had to set it up, get the DJ. I had to be there. They kind of gave us the key. And so it was our thing to kind of go and set it up. So, whatever. It worked out. I don't know if it was the same for you, but that night or that day was a blur.
oh
It's
yeah.
all it's all for her. And so I was just spent completely on making sure that this was her event, her thing, whatever she wanted, she got. And it was work for me. But and even at the reception at the end, I was like, babe, hey, whenever you're ready to go, I'm ready, I'm ready to get out of here. So we had a great time. We had good friends there, and we went to the beach for the first night, and then headed to our favorite place, which is up in Tennessee for our honeymoon. So
Oh, nice.
it was a good time, man. Great experience, and now we have a house up there in Tennessee, and we go there all the time. So it's kind of come full circle for us, and we love it, man. I wouldn't have done it any other way, and hopefully she says the same thing. I mean, I don't know.
What's your favorite memory from the wedding?
Ooh,
The one that sticks out the most?
uh, the wedding night. I mean, listen, I'm gonna be
Hell
honest.
yeah.
I'll be honest with you here. I was a virgin all the way up until marriage, and so the wedding. That's why I told my wife. I kept looking at the clock, like, "Hey, babe, let's get on out of here because we got other things. I got my man. I've been waiting, 20 something years to go. So for me, it was the wedding night, but for her, I'm sure it was the whole experience of the whole thing. But man, I couldn't wait to spend the night with my wife and it just it was the whole thing was just a great experience and we've been doing it the same way for 21 years and I feel like every day is a blessing and every day that I get to spend with my wife is an opportunity to be a blessing to her as well. So
Nice. That's the first time I heard that answer, so that's great.
really awesome.
I mean, if we're being honest, like we're all
Yeah,
just trying to get to that point, right?
that's it.
Unfortunately, sometimes you hear people get too tired from the whole thing, and then they drink too
Yeah,
much, and then it's like
right.
the wedding night's not what you thought it'd be. We had a good night, the wife and I, we did,
Awesome.
but I can imagine that a lot of people that I've heard that being the case, like they just get too tired and drunk from the night, and then that's
Oh,
it.
that's horrible.
Yeah,
That's
but I feel
horrible.
like you gotta get it in, you know?
Yeah, that's a tough way to start a marriage if you don't
Yeah.
start it out like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Has
it's
to
like you're
start out with a
setting
bang.
You're setting a precedent there. You're saying it's okay to
Yeah.
not, we'll just go to sleep tonight. No, now you're screwed because now
Yep.
you set yourself up for failure there. So
Yeah.
for us,
Oh,
it's not an option. For us, it's not an option. So
yeah. So how long did you wait before having a kid?
so it really wasn't long. I had a plan. I think going forward, it's weird to say even now that I had a plan for this, but I I had a plan. I wanted all
Yeah.
my kids. I wanted as many as I possibly could have. And I wanted them all before I retired. So I wanted them out of the house before I retired.
Okay.
And I wanted to have them young so that I could still be that active dad, that active father
Hmm.
in their life. And it just worked out, man. My wife was pregnant for about 4 years straight, and she worked for Disney, but she was mostly home because she was on
Hmm.
leave most of the time, which was great for us. So we got all the perks, and she didn't really have to work, but she was still getting paid. So
Hmm.
it was great. I think it was 2 years, maybe a little more than 2 years before we had our first kid, and it was just nonstop from there. We had five total. We lost one
Hmm.
uh, early, which was unfortunate. We could talk about it too. And so once we got to four, it was like for us, it was like, all right, this is way too expensive. We got to lie on our
Yeah.
hotel rooms. We can't go on cruises without getting a second room. I was like, man, this is crazy. So I was like, I wanted a football team, but we're good. We're gonna stop right here at four,
Hmm.
and even four is just it's crazy, especially here in Florida. It's super expensive. I don't even know how we survived this whole time through it, and I know finances is a big thing in relationships, and it can be tough, especially living in South Florida. But we're a testament to this to the success. My wife, I mean, we'll talk about it, but my wife quit work and early on after our first kid, and she ended up homeschooling all four of them, and we did it. We survived on one income. I'm a workaholic, but I feel like it works the way that we're doing it, and I love it. So it's awesome.
So, if you want to talk about it, I know, it's hard to bring up and everything like that, but the loss of a kid
Yeah,
early on, this is one of those things. It's part of it, right? This
yeah,
podcast, it's part of it. Like, I don't want you to relive memories and stuff like that, but if somebody's going through something
yeah,
similar, then what you say could help them all,
yeah, absolutely. And I love to talk about it just because of that. Uh, we found really early on we didn't know about this whole miscarriage thing. We didn't know about this stuff, and once it happened, we found this huge community of people, and it's actually very common. So it happens a lot, and so I feel good about talking about it because whatever I can get experience and help somebody else, that's what I want to do. And so for us, it was our third child. So we had two boys already. and we were going for a third. Both pregnancies were good. One was I had big kids, so they were like 10 pounds plus.
Nice.
So our so our first one was crazy, and then the second one they went ahead and did a C-section. So from there, all the other kids were C-sections. But and our experience is tough because a lot of times you have the miscarriages early on, and it's really hard on the wives because they're the ones that are doing all the work at the beginning. And on our child, we lost like a day or two before she was due. So and it was our first daughter. It was tough. She supposedly she got the cord was wrapped around her neck. My wife came to me during the day and she was just like, I don't feel the child moving. And so we rushed over to the hospital and sure enough, the cord had wrapped around the baby's neck and we delivered. And I don't know there's probably a lot of people watching this podcast who have gone through some similar experiences. So we had the opportunity to have the baby. I was in there for the C-section, and I was there with my wife to be able to comfort her. We had the option to hold the baby, but we chose, maybe it was me that chose. I didn't want to see that because I've seen so much death in my life through the work that we do that I didn't want it to just be another vision in my head. And so we had them, they put the baby in the room next to us to give us that opportunity to grieve. And so we had friends surround us and we were able to I mean, it sucks. There's really no way around it. And even to this day, we still celebrate her birthday and we celebrate those opportunities and it still hurts. A lot all the time, especially when you have a kid leave. You think about these things again about where she was in the place and how old she would have been and what kind of experiences would we've been having with her. And so it's always going to be there. It's always a part of your life. It's always an experience. But life goes on and uh, love is always there. And we actually had her cremated, and we took her to one of our favorite spots up in Tennessee that we visit all the time, and we put her ashes there. So it's I think that's part of the grieving process is important as well to be able to have somewhere that you can remember her and remember those times and remember the good times. But I'm sure if my wife was on here, it would be a whole different experience because I think for women especially, it's a lot harder because they're experiencing that daily thing with their bonding with the child and I'm sure it's tougher on her than it was for me and it was hard on me so I can't imagine with her and that's why again it's important to go to counseling all the time because you never know when these experiences are going to pop up you never know and like I said you don't want it to be because of the experience that you go to counseling you want to be prepared for those experiences you want to be prepared for stress there's going to be stress so why not go prepare for it now to be able to bond with your wife work through those things with her to experience because you got to experience it. You got to experience the good. You got to experience the bad. And it's all part of life. The bad moments is what allows us to see the good. And so if we're not experiencing toughness and hard times in our life, what's the point? And so to be able to walk through that hand in hand with your wife, because I know a lot of times those kind of experiences, that kind of trauma can wreck a marriage. And it's hard to get through. But if you're prepared for it, you're prepared for hard times, which you should be, because we know they're coming, right? If they're not there yet, be ready because they're coming. We know it. Even with a kid, it's coming, right? We need to prepare for it. And so it's so important to number one, experience the hard things together, hand in hand, because and you can't hide things. Don't hide your trauma. Don't hide your um the things that you're going through, speak it, speak about it, cry through it. There's nothing wrong, and it's tough sometimes as men to show our emotion, but man, it's so important to work through that process of grieving fully. You've got to experience every step. Don't miss a step in working through that process. But the end of it, the vision at the end is it's just love, and it's part of your story, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys had so much else going for you, and I would imagine, I'm not saying that it makes it better,
Yeah,
but the third
yeah.
kid, I mean, if it
Oh
was the
yeah,
first one,
yeah.
uh, like first one and having a hard time, like actually getting pregnant, like there's
Oh,
like
yeah.
that's a sad, like you have a very sad story, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that. And
Yeah, I mean,
It's
on a positive note, again, then we had our two daughters after that, and they were
yeah.
healthy and they're doing great.
Mhm.
And man, it's just the whole story, the whole thing of marriage and the toughness and the trauma. And we're only 21 years in, we're halfway there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just it's all a part of the story, and you can't miss out on the good and the bad because it's all a part of that journey. And so, man, even looking back at the tough times, it's so good to be able to experience it as a couple.
Nice. So what made you have your wife, or not like it was your choice, I'm sure she chose to do it, but quit her job and
Oh,
then
yeah.
homeschool? Like
It,
why did you make that decision?
so I don't. I'm trying. Let me think. I don't think I've ever been asked that question. I remember just working through it with my wife, and she was like, "Oh, well, I've been pregnant for like 2 years straight.
Mm.
You know, I'm so busy doing what I'm doing." And I felt so busy doing what I was doing that it just felt like something had to give. And I think that's when the conversation started coming out with what do you think? What needs to give? And at that point, as a man, I mean, I listen. I mean, I don't know if it's like this. This is how it was for me. This is my experience. But as a man, I always thought it was a cool thing to think about my wife just staying home and being that mom that she wanted to be. And I thought it was something that I could gift her, that opportunity to see and taste and feel how it is to just focus on the house and the kids. And so we tried it out. That was our thing. And I immediately started a second job. I started teaching on the side, and it was something that I love doing, and it just kind of worked out. And I'll tell you, if you guys on this podcast and you're watching and you're at that point where you're like, I don't know if she should stay home or not, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but it takes about a year and a half to adjust your finances, to maybe throw some things on a credit card that you really don't want to build up, but you got to make that transition. You used to eat out every week, and now you got to kind of back off just in that transition period. But it takes about a year to figure everything out and start to kind of work itself out. So if you're thinking about it, it's doable. I did it. My wife stayed home with all four kids. She did recently just pick up a job, like a little side job that she can make some money on as a travel agent. But she just does that for fun on the side, and it's possible. It's gonna take some time, and it is some work. And it's uncomfortable. You're gonna have to be okay with being uncomfortable, probably for the majority of your marriage, just because kids don't get cheaper as they get older. And the more you have, it just becomes more expensive. So uh, you gotta set yourself up for success in that and be ready for some bumps. And like I said, the trauma in life is good to work through. That's what builds an incredible relationship. My son's doing it now in basic training. The whole point of basic training is to make them mad at the leaders so that they can bond with their fellow mates, right? So the same thing in
Yeah.
a marriage. When the stress comes, if you're not then in that stressful moment bonding with your wife and creating that relationship, that's the whole point. And so when the tough times come, you gotta look internally inside your house to create those relationships, not outside, which a lot of us guys tend to do. You gotta build that bond with your wife, and it's super important.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm going through, or in my mind, went through the fact that it would be nice if my wife didn't have to work. My wife would probably work because that's what she does.
Yeah,
She's a savage and stuff like that. But it'd be nice. It would be nice
yeah,
if I can give her an option. You
yeah,
know, like,
yeah,
hey, you don't have to do that.
yeah.
It's just not looking good.
No, and we live in South Florida, so
Yeah.
it's tough. I mean, even those the new guys coming out in our department and trying to
Oh, I
buy.
feel so bad for those
Oh
guys,
my
man.
gosh, bro! I can't imagine then trying to work through not having two incomes. You gotta have two incomes here in South Florida, so it's a whole different world out there. But again, it's just whatever your preference is. You willing to put in the work if it's something that she really wants. Um, I've always been a proponent. This is what I tell my kids all the time, that it's going to work out. It's going to work out. Whatever
Mm.
you decide, you're going to make it happen. That's what's so cool about being a human is that we are able to adapt and overcome, right? So
Yeah.
any opportunity that we go and do, don't be scared of it. Go do it. If you want to try it, go do it. And I guarantee you're going to make it work, especially if it's a priority. And if it's not, then you'll switch back to the role you had before. No harm, no foul.
Mhm. So you had the opportunity to teach, right? Did
Yeah.
you help homeschool? Did you teach any subjects to your kids, or
So
was you just working?
So I took what's called we came up with this is like I'm the principal role in this thing, and she's
All
the
right.
educator. So I love education. I like the idea of education. So I was the one that kind of set a groundwork, an idea of what I wanted, and
Mm-hmm.
then I just let her kind of run with it. We've had some disagreements along the way. But that's marriage, right? She's got her thoughts and visions on what she wants, and I've got my thoughts and visions on what I want, and a lot of times they don't come together, and so we got to work through that. But that's part of the fun of the marriage, and I, am I happy with everything that the way it turned out? It turned out the way it was supposed to, is what I say, right? So
There you
because
go.
things work out the way that they're supposed to. I love our journey. I love where we came from. If I look back on it and were to go and try it again, I would probably do the exact same thing. Um, Again, my job as a husband and as a man in my family is to prepare them for the future. And so I feel like I did the best that I could. And as long as you're happy with what you did, that's all you can ask for. Nothing's going to be perfect. It's always going to be bumpy, but you just adjust and overcome.
So how do you think those conversations would go if you can remember? You being the principal, how would you bring it up
Bro,
to your
those
wife
have
and be like, "Hey, what do you think about this?"
it's not easy. It's not
It's
easy at
not
all.
easy, right? Because you're if being the principal and she's the educator, you know that
Yeah,
she's probably doing the
yeah.
majority of it, right?
So obviously we don't we're still working through that.
Okay.
It's been and
It's a work in progress.
our oldest is 18, and we still have arguments about the way that our kids are being educated. Again, I like to separate myself from it. I just say, hey, this is my principal role, and I come to her like, hey, we need to have a talk. And again, an in relationship that you have, I think if you prepare yourself, prepare your partner, you don't just come at them with like, hey, boom, this is what I don't like about you. This is what I want coming up. If you just hit them with it and surprise them with it, you're an idiot.
Okay.
Right? Because you know what you're going to get back. It's just going to be coming at you. So you know what you're going to get. So I think it's so important to prepare for those kind of conversations. And I don't do a good job at it. I'll be honest with you,
Okay.
because of the job that we have. Our job is fast paced. I eat quick, right? I'm sure you finish your food fast because you're ready
Yeah.
for the next call. And for me, I'm like, I just want to get it out of the way, right? I don't want to prepare her and then wait a day and then go have that conversation. I'm ready. When I have the thought, I'm ready to have that conversation right now.
Mm,
I don't care how chaotic it gets, right? Because I know in the end it's going to work out, but it's not fair to her. So what you should do and what I do when it's right is to prepare her, let her know, hey, this is the date that we're going to have that conversation, whether it's once a week, once a month, and there's no what ifs about it. On that date, she knows, I know, we're going to have a conversation about educating our children, and we can prepare ourselves for that. We can bring to the table so there's no like, oh, I wasn't ready for this. Hey, the date is
mm,
here. You're either ready or not. And and that kind of thing actually works out well for other conversations as well that you want to have with your wife. If you're able to say, hey, listen, um, I'd love to once a week or once a month get together and talk about marriage and talk about where we're at and where we want to go. Do a planning session. Some friends of ours would always go to Disney World once a year and do a planning session with their wife on what that next year looks like. And so I love to incorporate that into my marriage of like, hey, let's go somewhere and make this about the year coming up so that we can have those hard conversations without being stressful because we know we're going to talk about something. Let's
mm,
prepare ourselves for it, and that usually makes it a little smoother. It doesn't always work out the way that we want to,
mm.
but it does definitely help in the long term.
Nice. I like that. I like that. Um, let's talk about how your marriage has changed throughout the years, right? Because that's
Yeah.
kind of like the journey I was going in, right? So
Okay.
with the beginning,
Yeah.
how you proposed, the wedding, the kids, right? So how do you think that your marriage had changed throughout the years?
Oh, I, oof, that's a tough question. So if I were to go year by year and think about this, I would say when you have kids,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably different when you don't have kids, and I can't talk on that because, like I said, within 2 years we already had our first kid, and we had four within 4 years.
Yeah.
So for us, it was around our kids and around our children. So that was that transition phase of like, all right, how do we do this with one kid? And then how do we do this with two? And how do we do this with three? And then how do we do this with four? And that took up 5, 6, 7 years of our lives just figuring out how to deal with. And so there really wasn't room for the relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was more like just how do we survive? We would, and I'm sure you're going through this now, even with one.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, all right, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, that's my time. You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
we put that kid to bed, and now I finally get a little bit of time. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was always like, all right, what do we do in this time? Number one, for myself, because I gotta have some me time. But then how do I do this now as a marriage? And it flew by so fast that if I look back, it was really just about how do we survive. It was like survival mode. And and now it's starting to transition into like, all right, now we really got to work on this relationship. And I think I want to say when our kids hit their teenage years was a time for us to transition to, so probably about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, was a transition to, all right, we need to focus on us. We need to make us the priority. And not that I didn't make her the priority all the time when I came in. It was always my wife first, then my kids. And I made sure that they understood that. Like, hey, dad's here, dad's here. No, listen, it's me and your wife, me and your mom first, and then I'll get to you guys. And so I wanted them to understand that, and I wanted her to know that she was the most important thing in my life, and then my kids were the most important thing. And when they turned to teenagers, we were able to kind of focus more in. They were able to watch themselves a little more. We were able to go on dates again. And so literally we go on dates every Friday. Every Friday is date night for us, and we make it a thing that we're gonna go somewhere nice, we're gonna go somewhere fancy. I always like to kind of tell her. It's a running joke with us. Is like she was always asking, "So where are we going?" Because they want to be ready for it. And I always tell her, "Oh, I don't know where we're going. But I always have an idea. I always have a plan of what I want to do, and we love to eat out, so that's our big thing. But you gotta make it a priority. If you're not making something a priority, it won't be something that you value. And when you value something, you make time for it. There's always time to eat. There's always time to breathe, right? There's always time to drink. There's always time to work out. It's because we feel those things are important to us, so we make time for it. Your marriage should be that same way. It's got to be so important to you that your life surrounds so that you make time for her. And so for us, it's been exciting to be able to dive back into our relationship and make that a priority. And it's ongoing. It's a work in progress, and I think it will be for the rest of our lives. But I think if you're ready to do it with her, um, that's all that matters.
No, I appreciate you giving a time frame. Because I was going to ask you that because you homeschooled your kids. So I
Yeah,
think most people are like, oh, if I can get this kid in school, I got 8 hours or whatnot,
yeah,
whatever it is. And I can have some time. Like we can have some time together. But when you're
yeah.
homeschooling and you got four of them, like when do you get time, dude?
Yeah,
So when they get to be all of them, when all of them are teenagers, or just like the
no,
top one?
when the first one turned 9, our kids were in scouts. So my two boys are the oldest. So our boys were in scouts, and so they were already having that leadership role. And so when they turned 9, 10 years old, I think 10 was the age that they were able to stay home, and we felt comfortable with them. We prepared them for that. That's
Mm,
another thing. You've got stages in their lives that you have to prepare for. just like the stage of when they turn 18. I joke with my kids all the time. Hey, when you turn 18, that's it. I got your bags. You're ready to go out the door. I got your bags. And so they're already thinking in their mind, like, all right, at 18, I'm gone, right? So they got to already think of a plan going forward. So why don't we do that at age 10 when it's like, all right, you're going to have the responsibility of watching your kids. When they turn 16 or 17 and they start driving, especially your first kid, it's like, all right,
Yeah.
guess what? You got the responsibility of driving, but now you're going to start driving the kids to events so that me and your mom have time together. And so that transition phase starts to happen. I would say probably around 10, but I'd say around the teen years is really, especially when you get that first driver and you're able to kind of like, all right, he could take them to school. I mean, I assume that's how it is. Ours was homeschooled, but you could take them to school and sports. We were sports heavy, so we were always driving our kids to sports. But when we had our first kid able to drive, man, it was a life changer. But at I think around 10, me and my wife started doing little mini dates to kind of test the waters. And
Okay.
so we would go to the bar. We would go to our local bar and we would have a drink. And it would be a cool thing for us to be able to get away for, 15, 20 minutes and just have one drink and test the water and then be home in 15 minutes. We'd have dinner with the family and then
Hmm.
we'd just go have a drink by ourselves. And that was our testing phase to kind of work into dinners out on our own. And again, you got to prepare for those moments because it has to be a transition. You have to know this is our next step. We want to get to a point where I can invest more in my wife. And if you prepare your kids for that, you're ready. It's not a surprise because I hear a lot of crazy stories of like 10 years old and they would never leave their kid alone with another child because they're not ready for that. And to me, that just I think it's a failure on someone's part there that they weren't ready for it, that they weren't prepared for it, that they weren't already preparing at age 4 to prepare your kid to take that responsibility on their shoulders, right? We
Yeah.
should be we should be training them up at age 4, at age 3, at age 2. If we're not teaching them how to navigate life at those ages, they're not going to be ready at 18. How do you expect them to leave the house if you're not preparing them to take those little steps to send them out on their adventure? One of the coolest things for me, I love talking about my kids and I love talking about my wife, but
Yeah.
one of the coolest things for me was the phase where they could ride a bike.
Oh, that's
And
coming up.
and bro, and listen, this life is the news and the way that we're inundated with life. It's like don't let your kids go out of your sight ever. Don't let them go because they're going to be kidnapped, right? That's
Mm.
all moms think about. That's all we think about is like, all right, if I let them go on a bike, they're going to get hit by a car. Especially as firefighters, like and this is part of the PTSD thing, I'm sure, is we can paint these vivid pictures of what could happen to our kids in our minds because we've been there. We've been on every one of those scenes of a kid getting hit by a bike, a kid getting hit by a car, and in our mind we can put those scenes right back together and we can just replace the kid with our kid. And so in our minds we're already thinking like, I can't let him leave the house on his own on a bike. Crossing
Yeah.
the street by himself is stupid, and nobody would do that, right?
Hmm.
But you have to mentally prepare your kids for those steps. And so, man, when they could ride a bike, I told them specifically, and this is one of the greatest lessons I believe that they learned and that I learned as a dad was go. I told them, take your bike and go on your adventures. And you got to just trust them that they're going to cross the street the right way. Obviously, you want to start small and get them just in your
Hmm.
neighborhood, but dude, you got to let them go. You got to let them have their adventures. You got to let them fall. You got to let them get in a fight. You got to let them get in a verbal match with the kid down the street that they don't like. You know what I mean? Like those, and I talked about it earlier today. Those are those teachable moments. They're gonna come home crying, and in my mind, I was like, yes, yes, yes. This is what I wanted. Because as a dad, it's like, all right, this is what I've been waiting for. The
Hmm.
opportunity to teach my kid a life lesson, right? We talk about wisdom all the time. How do you gain wisdom? It's through experiences, right? You have to experience tough times in order to gain that wisdom of like, how do I work through this? Right? I'm going to come home to my dad and hopefully my dad has some wisdom to share with me. And
Hmm.
because of that wisdom sharing with your child, now your child is going to have that wisdom to take on with the rest of their life. And this is a great opportunity for me to talk about the letters that I've got from my son. So,
Okay.
sorry, I get a little
That's
emotional when I
great.
talk about it, but so I got a letter the other day that talked about, he said, Dad, I need I need your wisdom in these moments. And it was it's so important to hear that as a dad because I've been doing it since he's been 4, 3, 2. I've been pouring my wisdom out. You don't know if they're hearing, right? You know what I mean? Like you're sitting on your kid and he just wants a lollipop, right? He just wants you to put a band-aid on him, give him a kiss, and send him off for the thing. But
Yeah.
you're giving this wisdom to your child when and this is great for you, Dennis, is when you need to discipline your child, do it. Smack them if you need to, spank them, teach them. If they're going to walk in the middle of the street, it's going to hurt, right? If you
Mhm.
touch that stove, it's going to hurt. But don't miss out on, all right, let's work through your crying because I spanked you. That's that's the quick discipline, but you have to stop and you have to talk to your child through it. So you discipline your child and they're going to hurt, but then you're going to sit them down, you're going to tell them why you did it. And you're going to share your life experiences with them on why it's important not to do these things. And those experiences are going to change as they get older. They're going to experience some crazy stuff. The stories I have with my kids, I could do a whole podcast on just the life of having 4 kids. It's crazy and chaotic, but I've learned so much. Is that wisdom? You never know if it's reaching them until later on in life, right? And so he wrote me a letter that said that I need your wisdom. And so I sent him a letter with more wisdom, and he wrote me another one saying, Dad, that's exactly what I needed. And I just got one yesterday that talked about uh, that he's going to have to start killing people, and they were talking about death and dying, and he was like, Dad, how do you deal with it? And it's just you got a kid at 4 years old, and it's so rewarding as a parent. It's so rewarding in this life to see this full circle of like they were 4, and I was spanking them, and I was talking to them, and I don't know if it worked, but it does. They hear you. But parents, it's so important, and I hope they're listening. It's so important that you talk through experiences with your kid. Let them experience it. Let them come home with crazy stories. Let them cry. But then you've got to sit them down and talk about how to work through it. And that's, I think, something that we're not good at as parents. We're not good at stopping and experiencing life with them as they do it. They need it. They need it so bad. And we're not doing a good job as parents of sharing our experiences with the next generation. And so they're showing up to their own experiences with no clue on how to do it. And it's so important as a young parent, Dennis, to invest in your kid, to invest in uh, sharing your wisdom with them. They hear you, and it will come back tenfold in the future.
So that's one of the things that I remember when you met my kid. We were at Kyle's house, and you were
Yeah,
talking to him. I don't even know how old he was, maybe a year, something like that. Who knows?
yeah.
But you looked at him and you started talking to him like normal,
Oh,
and
bro.
then you told me, oh, you got to talk to him. He's like, and you said they know, they trust me, they know what you're talking about. Like it's probably not going in, but they understand it. And I was like, all right, like I guess.
So I read as soon as I knew I was going to have my first kid, I went and got books. I love reading. So I read every book possible on how to raise a kid, just to prepare, just to get
Mhm.
ready for it. And a lot of the things they said in there was even in the womb, they hear you and they learn your voice. And they only release certain hormones when dad's around. So if dad's not around all the time, they're not getting these hormones. They're not getting this relationship. But by the time they come out of the womb, they already know who dad is. They know what his voice sounds like. They know the inflections. They actually know conversation because they've been hearing it for 9 months. They just don't know how to communicate. So they understand what you're saying. They just don't know how to get it. And that's what's frustrating for them is they're trying to talk, but their mouth isn't working the way they want to. So they know what's happening in the world. They know what you're saying, right? And that's why I love that opportunity to talk to them, and I used to do that all the time was like talk to them like they're real, man. Talk to them like they're listening because they are. We're talking
Mhm.
the goofy gaga stuff, but they want to hear our voice. They want to hear that wisdom. They're watching us from day one to see how we respond to things, how we respond to our wives, how we respond to situations, right? they're watching us, and the way that we respond to them is so important. It adds value not only to ourselves but to them, and how important it is to add value to our kids, to make them feel special and real, and like they have a place in our family from an early age.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing that with my son now. He'll say, "Dad, I want to be big and strong like you when I get older, or when I'm older, I'll be taller than you." you know,
Just you wait till they get to the
yeah.
teenage years, because when they become teenagers, they move away from mom and they go right to you. So they're really going to start making that change once they get to their teenage years, and it's exciting time, and if you're ready for it.
hmm So I want to talk about. You said you had two boys, two daughters.
Yeah,
So how do you feel that's different? Like when raising kids, right?
yeah,
Obviously, it has to be, right? It
yeah.
can't be
So
the same. So.
no, no. Well, I had my two kids, and I was nervous when I heard I was going to have a child, a girl, the next one. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this, because I mean, guys are easy, right? We know
Mhm.
how to take care of guys. We take care of ourselves, It's just a
Yeah.
mess. We're a mess, So they're a mess, so it's just natural. And believe me, that never changes, because my side was still a mess. Hopefully, the military will change him some way when he gets back, but it's a complete mess. His room, everything's a mess.
Mhm.
But they're just easier. Guys are easier because when you discipline them, you don't have to be gentle. You just do your thing, and they understand it, right? And same thing with ourselves. We're just rough and tough, and we figure it out. But with girls, it's completely different. And for me, it was scary. I was scared. Um, but once you get in there and do it, it feels good. It feels natural, and they got me wrapped around their finger. They know they
Mhm.
do. So they've got that look. They got that look they give you, and it's just like, but dad, and it's like, all right, you got me, you win.
Yeah.
So they're a lot more challenging in that way, but I I'm excited for the next few years, because they're at the age now where it's super critical for dad to be the hero. And so I'm really excited about transitioning over to that role, because it's tough with four kids, like where to put your focus, and especially with one job. I mean, with one income, I'm always working, so it's hard to juggle that. But you just do the best you can, and you live with
Mhm.
that, right? We're all different, and there's no right way to do it. And that's what's so bad about social media is everything looks right, right? Everything looks like everybody's winning. And why am I not winning? That's always the thing. We always look back at ourselves and say, well, why am I not doing that? When really we're all doing the same stuff. We're all losing a lot of things, and we're not posting that stuff. So just do the best you can, and dive in deep, and be able to adjust. So when I do things with the guys, and then I try the same things with the girls, and it completely fails, I gotta be like, all right, this isn't working. Let me try something new. Just that's why it's so important to date our wives really well, really early. Like that should never stop, right? We should never stop dating our wives. We should never stop pursuing them. Maybe that's a better word, pursuit, right? We should never stop pursuing our wives, because that's our practice for our daughters, right? Because they're going to look at us in that male role. They're going to love us, right? Statistics say they're going to marry somebody that's like us, right? So we need to be that example. We need to prepare ourselves for that by working on that relationship with our wives. By pursuing that relationship with our wives prepares us for the relationship with our daughters. And so it's super important. If you have a rough relationship with your wife, how do you expect to have a good relationship with your daughter? It's very tough, especially with any kid. I mean, you gotta work on all relationships that you have.
So who disciplines the daughters? Is it you, or is it your wife? Is it because I just have been thinking about it for a while. I had a kid.
Yeah,
There's no more coming. Um, but I thought, like, okay, if we had a daughter, this is the way it would be. Like,
right.
I discipline the boy, but if it was a girl, and like you said, she'd
Yeah,
look at me and be like, "Oh, Dad," I'd be like, "Damn it!" like, I knew it in my head. It would have been that way. So
right.
I just knew that I would have to be like, "All right, babe, you have to spank her because I'm not gonna like. How can you do
Yeah.
that? Like, I don't
Listen,
know."
like I said before, I love discipline, because
hmm
I think it's an opportunity to create future success, right?
hmm
So for me, there's no failure, as long as you're doing it the right way, which is discipline, and then talk them through it. So I don't change that. And it worked well with both my boys and my girls, which is
Okay.
discipline. And now the girls, they tend to remember when daddy was rougher with them. So they tend to hold on to those moments. So maybe I would say, looking back, maybe be a little more gentle, or I don't know. But again, we're all on our own little journeys here. But I think discipline for me, spanking wise, it stopped around age 7 or 8, because I set clear expectations for my children. So and this is important for any parent, when you set a wall and you tell them don't do this, you got to stick to it. Because the second all their job is, as kids, all their job is to find that loophole, to find where is daddy soft so I can push him harder, where is mommy not 100% so that I can find my way through. That's their job. That's what they're looking for. So if you're not 100%, this is where we're stopping, and you don't discipline that every single time, they're not going to understand how that works. And so you may be disciplining your kid up until age 18 when they leave the house because you haven't set clear boundaries. It's super important to set clear boundaries and then stick to those boundaries as a couple. The hardest thing is to discipline your child by yourself and not have the back up of your spouse. And that's something that I'm still learning to this day, because I'll be like, hey, yeah, why don't you let them go do this? Or social media is a big thing now. We don't let our kids on social media. My son did once he kind of got older, my oldest son, but our other kids really don't like social media very much. And now they want it. So that was a conversation recently, was like, hey, I want to start posting things on social media. My wife was like, nope. And I was like, all right, we can do this. But they came to me. I was like, oh, maybe, we can do this. Maybe if we set boundaries. And so there wasn't that clear picture of, like, my wife said no, but my dad said maybe. Right. So where did they gravitate towards? The me. They were like, oh, dad said me. Yeah, we got it. We're in. And it doesn't work that way. So you've gotta be clear on your boundaries together, and you've got to stick to what it is that both of you decide is the right thing. And again, I'm just trying to do the best I can. I don't know what's right or wrong. This world is a crazy place, so I'm just trying to do the best I can, and I can only share what I've done.
Well, I appreciate you talking about your kids so honest and candidly. Like, that's awesome. I have a buddy, and he was on the podcast too, and he said he was never going to get married, and then he got married. He said he was never going to have a kid. His wife's 8 months pregnant.
Oh boy.
So speaking of that, this question he asked me, he said, what is it like? What does being a husband mean to you? Like, what, like,
Yeah.
how, like, what goes from boyfriend to husband?
Mhm.
Is it just like the piece of paper and everything? So I had that conversation with him, and
Nice.
I want to know what your answer is.
So for me, it's responsibility. I think is the big thing, is that we have an expectation as men to always, especially now with social media, we always need to be winning. We always need to be pursuing something, whether it's me conquering the world in some way. We have this hero mentality of we've gotta save the world, right? But it all starts at home, right? So you got to have that same mentality when you get married. You got to be like, man, I got to be the hero for my wife, right? That's step one. What does life look like when you're the hero in this relationship? What are you doing to create that pursuit in her life, right? They love being pursued before they get married. And then for some reason, there's a stigma of, like, you get married and now it's like, I don't have to pursue her anymore. I got her, right? I tagged her. She's
Yeah.
it. And I don't have to try anymore. But that's just not the case. You're going to have a rough marriage if that's the case. So you should be dating consistently. You should be pursuing her in some way, but you got to be her hero. And you got to every day wake up and be like, what can I do today to show her that I love her? What do I do today to show her that I'm her hero? And you got to live it out daily. And it changes when you have kids, right? So now it's not only do I have to be a hero for my wife, but I got to be a hero for my kids. And like I've been saying this whole podcast, you got to prepare for those moments. You got to prepare for marriage, right? You can't just jump into it. You got to prepare. What does it look like? What are we gonna do? What does marriage look like to us? How do I fill that role as a hero for my wife and now as my kids? And it's got to be a daily thing. You can't stop because I've had several conversations with some divorced couples before, and a lot of what it is you get in that argument and you feel like um, you're just not meshing, right? So she's got this thing that she's holding over you, and you're not gonna give it up because she's holding it over you. So you got something you're holding over her, and if you let that go that whole day, now it becomes easier, right? To hold that over her, and she holding over you. Before you know it, a week's gone by, a month's gone by, a year's gone by, and there's no way you can restore that marriage if you don't give that thing up. And so for us, it's daily. You've got to daily give up everything. And this is one thing I said at Kyle's wedding in
Okay.
the speech was you got to the greatest lesson I ever learned in my marriage was to tell my wife that she's right, even when I know in my heart she's wrong, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Mm,
In the end, who cares who's right or who's wrong, right? So all I want is to be her hero, and the way that I can do that is by giving it up. Give up those trials. Give up wanting to be that thing, right? The winner in the conversation, right? You can't be
mm,
a winner and be married. You know what I mean? Like you
yeah.
got any conversation you have, you can't win. It's not a winning thing. It's what do I give up? What does she give up? And we have to figure out how do we come together in that relationship. Any conversation you have, you got to give something up. So never come to a conversation thinking I got her, right? Which is a lot
Mm,
of what we do is like, oh, I can't wait till she brings that up because I'm going to win this one. But you cannot have that mindset and have a winning marriage. The winning is giving up. The winning is losing.
yeah.
In the end, you got to be able to tell your wife that she's right, even when you know at the core that she's wrong. And you cannot let that go more than a night. If she's not willing to give it up and you're not willing to give it up, it's going to be a rough thing. So at the end of the day, you've got to be the one that just comes in and says, "Hey, babe, listen, it's all surface stuff. I love you, and I don't care how it turns out. Let's do that thing, or you can do that thing.
Mm.
It's not worth it. It's not worth holding that thing over her. It's tough,
Yeah, I
man.
think
Yeah.
I think that a lot of us struggle with the egos being men, right?
Oh man, big time.
Um, yeah, we and being firefighters. So it's one of those things where we're not. It doesn't matter who it is. We're not giving up. We're not backing down. You know,
Yeah,
hell no.
yeah,
But for me, I think my wife has seen me the most vulnerable with her,
yeah,
and I'm not. She knows I'm not vulnerable. She
yeah,
knows I'm strong. You know, she knows that I'm capable.
yeah,
But that's the reason why I feel like I can be vulnerable with her. So when I take the L and I'm like, you know what, babe, you're right. Like it doesn't hurt me. She knows what I'm doing
yeah,
for the most part, you know?
yeah, yeah,
So yeah. Also, I know this was a while back, but I wanted to bring up this point. You had mentioned that you put your wife first, right?
yeah.
You walk in the door, your kids are
Oh
all
man,
happy to see you. You give them the
so
old Heisman trophy.
yeah, yeah.
And
That's it,
then
man.
you're like, hey, let me give my wife a kiss.
Yeah,
Um,
she's the
I
first.
respect that. I respect that so much. And I think, a lot of people will say, and I've heard, because this is
Yeah.
one of the questions that I've asked,
Mhm.
like who comes first in your relationship, the kids or the spouse? And I think it's so important that it is the spouse,
Yeah.
because you guys, the reason why they're there is because you guys are there, you know?
Yeah.
If you never met her or she said no or you guys broke up and whatnot, there would be no kids.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why it's the foundation, basically. You
Absolutely.
set your foundation and then you go ahead and put her first. I think it's great. And I'm
Yeah,
glad to hear that you do that.
it's so important too for them to understand that, right? For them to know that, hey, listen, I'm his number one, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's got to be in the back of her mind. And man, talk about what we want. Number one is sex, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
if she's got this vision of like I'm her, you know, number one, right? So then she's always thinking about like he's thinking about me, I'm sure right now, right? Or she's thinking about me right now all the time because I'm his number one. So talk about a great relationship, going forward, especially with sex, is that anticipation, right? We talk
Mm-hmm.
about that all the time. Is like when I come home, she should be anticipating my arrival. Just like if she was gone on a business trip or something, when she gets home, it should be that anticipation. It's what we want. It makes us feel good that she's waiting for us at the door, right? It makes them feel good that they're thinking that all I'm thinking about while I'm gone is her, right? That man, that is going to create an incredible relationship. And talk about sex life is beyond words when it comes to that because there's always this yearning like, oh, he's thinking about me, she's thinking about me. I can't wait for those two things to come together. So it's exciting. Why not do it, man? If that's what we want, why are we not pursuing that? You know what I mean? Why are we so lazy sometimes that we're just like, oh, not today, babe. I don't,
Mm-hmm.
you're not my number one today. It should never even be a thought. I shouldn't have to say it. It should just be. And the way that it is you start on day one, right? It's not something that you do one day and then you don't do it a month later. It's got to be consistent. Same thing we're showing our kids is like, hey, listen, my wife is number one. And they know that from day one. And so they're not
Mm-hmm.
going to try any funny stuff. They know, and they tell their friends, hey, it's mom and dad. It's Friday night. Sorry, I can't come over. Sorry, no sleepover this weekend. My parents are going on a date night, right? I've shut a bunch of their things down on Friday nights because it's date night. And they know that, hey, number one. And all we want to do is create a stable life for our kids. And what more stable life is there than to see mom and dad, for them to see mom and dad, number one, right?
Mm-hmm.
To see that relationship. That's I think what they're so nervous about is that relationship. When there's an argument that goes on, they're like, oh crap, is mom and dad gonna separate? Because right, 50% of marriages don't last. They end in divorce. And so I think a lot of kids talk about that. That's all they talk about is why are your parents not together? Well, mine are together now, but I heard them argue last night, so they're probably going to get a divorce, right? I mean, that's probably what they're thinking. If we could show them stability and what that looks like and how they, even when we have an argument, we love each other, right? In the end, that's why I tell people all the time, don't be afraid to have arguments in front of your kids
Okay.
because they need to see that, right? They're going to have their own arguments. They need to see how does it look for an argument to happen, and then for you to work through that argument, and then it's so important for them to see the ending of that argument, right? And how that works out in the end, and how hey, we still love each other, right? And for them to be able to see that and work through that in their mind, it's so valuable for their self-esteem in the long run. So everything we're doing is in a microscope to our kids. But it should also be in our minds all the time is am I a hero to my wife? And you should wake up every day asking yourself, what can I do better today to do that?
Yeah, very well put with the anticipation. That's one of the things my
Oh
wife and
yeah,
I do. We meet each other at the door.
awesome.
Um, I see her pulling up. I unlock the door. She goes to reach for the doorknob, and I open the door every time. I wouldn't
Love it.
miss it.
Love
Yeah, and now Luke gets to open the door, but
it.
I greet her first, or I try
Right,
to,
right.
right? With kids.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, I love that. So you just briefly talked about divorce. So now, other
Yeah.
question here is: has divorce ever been mentioned? Did you guys talk about it maybe before you got married? Maybe it's not an option. I know you guys are religious.
Yeah, yeah.
You touched on that briefly, but
Yeah, so for us, I mean, we say it's not an option, but there have been heated arguments where it's just like, I don't know if I can do this. You throw one of those
mm,
things out there. I don't know if this can go on the same way like this all the time. Those kind of words come out. Why? And even thinking about it now, why do we say those things? It's just because we feel like we're losing and we want to jab at them real quick. So we say stupid stuff like that. We're men and we
yeah.
respond out of emotions. And we've got to be able to be careful of what we say. And although we screw up all the time anyway, and we say it,
Mm,
it it's it, it's hard to say it and then backtrack, and especially if your kids are watching and then you say something stupid like that. So you're really digging yourself a hole because now you have to explain to your wife why you said that and why you don't mean it.
mm,
And then you got to explain to your kids why you said it and why you don't mean it. So when we say things now, especially with the kids, you're gonna have to explain yourself uh, moreover. But we've had really close friends get divorced, and it's been something that our kids have seen. It's something that we've seen, and so that conversation has always been there in the back of our minds, just to talk about it. Like I said before, remember it to anticipate those things, to get ahead of those things is
Hmm.
it's just wise. And if you want to be wise in the things that you do, and 50% of marriages end in divorce, why can't ours, right? So we have to be thinking that in the back of our mind. How can I protect that, right? If we're not thinking it could happen, we're not going to set up walls to protect it. And so
Hmm.
in the back of our minds, we're like, yes, this is possible, but we're going to make it so that it's not. And how do we do that? We set up those walls to create love, which my biggest thing is that vision of this ball where the inside is love and the outside is our arguments. They never
Hmm.
penetrate to the inside. There's always going to be love there. And no matter what argument I have, I love you. I love you. I love you. That's it. But there's going to be a lot of disagreement, but it's never going to penetrate that. And so at the end of the day, we can look at each other and be like, "Hey, listen, I love you regardless of the fact that you don't believe me or you don't say the right things to me. It doesn't mean that I don't love you. It just means I disagree with you at this moment. It doesn't mean we can't go on with life. So love has to be clear. You have to set expectations for that love. You've got to set up walls for divorce. Otherwise, you're an idiot because it's going to happen if you don't prepare for it. Especially in our relationships with other women, right? If we're not setting up walls and barriers to protect our wives from and our relationships from other women trying to get into that family core, then we're not doing a good job as men because we know that that's a constant thing for us. It's a problem that we have as men. We're visually stimulated, so we've got to be careful with what we see that could penetrate into our marriages. And so you just don't be stupid. If you're
Yeah.
stupid, be ready, right? Mess around and find out, right? Mess around and
Mm.
find out. So we know it. We do it ourselves sometimes, man. We mess around, and sure enough, we find out. But a strong relationship that prepares for those things, even when you screw up, you're going to be able to work through it.
Well, this is why I love having the podcast. I love talking to people like you because I think a lot of people they don't even think about it. They
No,
they don't have a thought to their marriage.
yeah,
They got married. That's what they're supposed to do. They're going through the whole rigmarole of life. They don't put any thought into it. So if somebody were to listen to this conversation and listen to what you're saying, yes, it is kind of dumb to not prepare for that.
yeah,
And what are you doing? Are you just
yeah,
living life day to day? Or like you got
yeah.
to put your wife first in a lot of instances.
Yeah, we live in a social media world that just says what's next, what's next, what's next, and we live in Florida, which if you ever get a chance to go to Tennessee or North Carolina, I think you guys have a house up there, no, or
Georgia, North Georgia.
in Georgia. When
Yeah.
you are able to get away and slow down, you can kind of look back on what happened that past year, and you're able to slow down and actually think about the things that you're doing. A lot of people don't do that. They're just in the rat race and they're spinning around and they're just trying to survive. They're just trying to keep their heads above water and breathe. They don't have
Mhm.
time for a relationship, right? They don't have time to worry about their kids. They're putting their kids in private school and hoping that they come out the way that they're hoping they do, and they don't ever invest in them. And it's not their fault. It's the world's fault is telling them that that's what they have to do. That's how they have to live. But man, if you get an opportunity to slow down, I've been learning this recently. It's how do you live in the moment? The past is gone. The future doesn't exist. The only thing that's real, the only thing that's tangible is right now, this very moment. Who are you right now? Who are you? How do you feel? What do you feel? What are you experiencing right now? Because this is real. This is
Mhm.
the only thing you have going for you right now is what's happening now. And we look back and it's gone. This moment is gone,
Yeah.
and we haven't really invested in it. And so it's so important when we do things like this, the podcast, that we put everything that we have into it, like studying for the lieutenant's test, right? That
Mhm.
that takes so much time away from your family. It's like if
Mhm.
I'm gonna do it, I better do it right, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to have to do it 5 times like I had to do. Until
Mm-hmm.
that last time when I was finally like, you know what? If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I should have done it the first time, but listen, it works out the way it's supposed to. But anything in life, we should be investing fully. Otherwise, why are we doing it? Maybe we should be asking ourselves, maybe it's not time for me to do this right now. Maybe there's something else I need to be doing. That's what living in the moment is all about is man, how are you feeling right now? That's the most important because the past is gone. The future doesn't exist yet. Right now is all that we've got. What are you doing to enjoy this moment, to live this moment fully with your wife, with your kids, with your spouse, through your work, whatever it is you're doing right now, man, how are you living that life that we're trying to pursue right now?
Yeah, and that's great advice. And like you'd mentioned, social media, right? And I'm not even talking about just looking
Yeah.
at certain posts. I'm talking about looking at your phone.
Yeah.
Period. I just recently went to a flip phone, right?
Nice.
So I'm not even kidding.
Crazy.
So the thing is I found, and just like you're saying, like I'm trying to have a conversation with my wife, and I'm just scrolling. She's scrolling. I'm like,
Oh,
why are we doing this? Like, it doesn't make any sense. If, if all we're gonna have to look back on is something that we're never even gonna remember, like we're not gonna remember sitting on the couch
no.
scrolling,
Right. Yeah. It's funny you say that because I just took my daughters out to breakfast this morning.
Okay.
And we went to Crackle Barrel, which is their favorite little place, and we got pancakes and we were sitting down. But the first thing they said to me was, Dad, hey, look over at that table over there. And we looked over and there was this family of four with their kids and they were all on their phones. There's
Hmm.
no relationship happening. There's nothing going on. And I love that my kids pointed that out because it from the day one with us, it was a no electronics thing when we're out eating, spending time with the family. There's no
Hmm.
electronics. So when our kid got crazy and started yelling, it was either here's some toys to play with or something like that, but it was never here's the phone, just watch a show, because we set out a thing early on that that's not how our kid's going to find comfort is through their phone. Because as soon as you set that principle, now that's our problem, right? That's why we're flipping on that, going through that
Yeah.
phone because it feels comfortable. It's
Hmm.
something for our brains to do, so we don't have to worry about anything else. Why would we want our kids to do that? So you got to set that precedent early and make sure that that's a thing that you guys do as a family. But then you got to do it yourself, right? So you got to be specific. And our job is so stressful. It's nice sometimes to come home and just unwind, right? And
Hmm.
back in the day when we didn't have phones, I mean, I'm sure you still remember those days.
Yeah.
We watched TV. We watched our favorite sitcom. We sat down as a family and we watched it and we laughed and we giggled, but we also learned a little bit about life through those moments. That doesn't happen now, not with our phones. It's just dumb scrolling, and they're just trying to look for ways to capture our minds. So we got to be specific about the things that we do. You gotta have your eye on what it is that you want. And one of the things I just read recently was the greatest thing men can do, and it's so important. This is really important that I've learned recently is you got to find your why. You got to find
Yep.
out why you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. Why is it? Because if we don't have our why as men, we look inward because we're searching for it, right? We're searching for that purpose in our lives. We don't have time for anybody else. We don't have time for anything else. We're trying to pursue that, whatever it is that we're trying to get as men to find our why, that we become self-centered. And our whys, our relationships, they get affected by that. But if you can find your why, your purpose in life, and you're now able to look outward, you can start focusing on relationships, whether it's the relationships at work, your relationships within your home, your children, because you don't have to worry about yourself anymore. You got it. You figured it
Hmm.
out. You know why you're here. You know your purpose. Now you can start sharing it and helping other people find their purpose. And so as men especially, and I found it in my marriage, is that when I start to become self-centered, I start trying to figure out what it is that I want. And social media is a demon with that. Is it always tells you you're not doing what you want. There's always something special or something better for you out there, and so that why gets jumbled up in there. And so we got to focus in on our why so that we can start to focus outward on our relationships. So find your why so that you can start finding the whys for your wife and for your kids. Super important.
Nice. Great advice. So you mentioned last time or a couple moments ago, uh, girls sneaking in, right? You mentioned that. So
Oh
one of
yeah.
the questions I like to ask are, do you think men and women can be friends, right? So for me, I think that there is a line. For sure, right? Obviously I'm not gonna. This is me. I'm not going to
No, right.
seek like let's say, oh, I have some free time, like my wife's working, my
Yeah,
kids whatever somewhere else, or I can get a babysitter. I'm gonna go hang out with some girl.
right,
Absolutely not. Right?
right, right, right.
Never. I don't ever want to be alone or at a restaurant, whatever, with another woman.
Yeah,
Period. Right.
yeah. Well,
So that's kind of the line that I draw. I could be friendly,
sure.
I work with, girls. I could be friendly. I can have conversations.
Yeah,
Fine. But if you're texting me now, it's like, I
yeah,
don't know
yeah,
if I
yeah.
like that either,
So I've never in my life, and like I said, I married my high school sweetheart, so I never had that opportunity to kind of look like what it is to pursue somebody else. You know what I mean? I had my relationship, plenty of relationships growing up, but it was never a marriage thought. So it's probably different for somebody that gets married later on in life. But for me, it was, I always felt a little uncomfortable around women because for me, it was always like, all right, is this a potential mate for me? Is this somebody that I might want to date? And so it was never just, I'm hanging out with this girl and, whatever. It, I never really had relationships like that. For me, it was always like, all right, is this a girl I want to date? Is this somebody that I want to, get with? So why would I change that now in my marriage and be like, all right, now I'm going to start pursuing girls as friends? Like, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make sense for me. And so from the get-go, I was always like, hey, looking from an outside perspective, what would somebody say about me with this girl? Would they say, hey, why are they out together? Where's his wife? If those kind of thoughts come into my head, like, then I'm not doing the right thing. I'm not setting up the barriers that I need to. It comes down to being the hero for your wife, right? So you've got to do that even when she's not around, right? So it's called integrity. And that's so important for men to pursue. And we've got to teach our kids that same thing is integrity. And we're not living it out. How can we teach our kids? Is we've got to be what we're saying, right? We got to be what we expect them to be. So I'm not going to go out there pursuing somebody else because I don't want her to do that. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
right. It's only fair. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, you've got to be specific. You got to have a plan. Like I have said a million times on this podcast, is you got to plan ahead. Ask your wife, what is she comfortable with? Get her involved in that whole thing, and then read through what she's saying because a lot of times they say things, but they really mean, all right, the wall is a little bit closer than I'm telling you it is. So,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're in a relationship, you can read those things, but it's super important to number one, make her number one, and that should always be on your mind. And then ask yourself, like, is this relationship that I'm in with this other girl, whatever relationship it looks like, is this helping or hurting my relationship with my wife? And if it's hurting at all, then you need to back off from that relationship. But you should always be asking yourself those questions because, man, it's a life or death thing there to have another woman sneak into your family like that. And even if it's small, that's where it starts, right? It's got to start somewhere. And I've seen so many relationships end because of infidelity. It sucks. It sucks. And I look back and I'm like, man, you didn't set up the walls. It was clear as day that you were making these mistakes and yet you continued to pursue it. It's almost like, dude, are you stupid or what, bro? Because this happened because of you. And so, knowing that we're built that way, what
Mm-hmm.
are the walls that we're already setting up? What are the books that we're reading? The books are huge because it walks you through other people's experiences with the things that you're trying to go through. Just like we're talking
Mm-hmm.
now. I got a kid that just left for college or for military. You got a kid that's just coming to his own, and we can share those life stories. But you can do that now by picking up a book, and
Mm-hmm.
I find value in that. If you have a question about like what does that relationship look like, man, grab a book and read about it. Go on a podcast, look at what other people are doing, and then figure out where it falls for you guys. And again, communication is the key. You gotta talk it out with your wife. If you're even nervous about that becoming an issue, get ahead of it. Go to counseling. Have them work through those things that you don't want to talk about when it's just you and her, but you have somebody mediating it. So um, you got to set up the walls. You got to set up the barriers. Super important.
So how do you deal with women flirting with you then?
Yeah. Well, To be honest with you, me and my wife, we use it as a way to kind of little foreplay for our sex life. So I think for me,
Oh, all right,
yeah.
cool.
So if we're out to dinner or something and she notices the waitress stared at me a little bit longer than she did
Mm,
her, she'll point it out, and it, I think hiding it is worse than, and then saving it for a later conversation, right? When then she could throw that at you. Then in the moment, just say it, and she's like, hey, she was looking at you a little bit longer. I was like, yeah, no, listen, I mean, I'm so good looking, you're so lucky. You're so lucky you got me, but no, but and vice versa, so we can kind of set
mm,
those things and be like, hey man, did you see how she was looking at you and all that stuff is like, she probably wants you right now, and those kind of things can set up some fun conversations later on. And man,
mm,
listen, it's all, who knows, but it's all fun. It's all a journey that we're working through. And, you know, any experience that you have, you can use to either hurt, harm, or strengthen your marriage. It doesn't, all experiences don't have to be bad. You can work them in any way you can, even fun ways.
mm. So I got one last question for you, and it's
Yeah.
a firefighter question. Came from a firefighter.
Okay.
Um, I like to end with this question because it's funny, it's light.
Gotcha.
But do you fart and or poop in front of your wife?
Oh, absolutely. I love it. I love it. She hates it, and
Uh,
it's a thing for her, but I love it, man. Man, the first, and you got to get that out of the way early. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, day one, let one out and kind of whip it her way a little bit, and just, listen, that's it, bro. There's nothing else. You can't avoid it. So it is what it is. If you're trying to hide it, you know what I mean? Like,
mm,
what's the point of that? That's just stupid. So for
yeah.
me, man, I do. I don't mind it. I know she hates it, but man, I'm just like whatever. You know what I mean? So we have a
Mm,
great relationship. It's fun. We're working through this life as best we know how. Uh, there's a lot of bumps in the road, but like I said before, and I know we're kind of closing up things here, but man, it's so important to get ahead of things, prepare for those moments of stress, and it's just easier to navigate through them if you're both on the same page. Don't go blind. You know what I mean? Be ready, just like we are in the fire department. We're training all the time for events that we don't even know will ever happen. Um, but we're taught that that's how you prepare for them, right? So why not do that in your marriage too? Prepare for those events that are coming up that might be traumatic for you, and be ready for them, man. Train like your life depends on it, right? Train like your marriage depends on it. Train like your relationship with your kids depends on it. You got to be ready. You got to be prepared, and then just breathe through it. It's awesome. Life is good, man. If you're ready for it, it's an adventure, and I'm ready. And I'm only 21 years in, and I'm looking forward to the next 20 plus, and it's exciting. So, no, thanks so much for having me on here, man. I love you. I love the relationship that we've had growing up, man. We've been through some tough times together. We've been through some good times together, and man, it's so good to do this life together, man. Whether it's with your buddies or with your wife or with your kids, man,
mm.
it's all about relationships. That's where you're gonna find your happiness, is in those relationships. So if you're gonna invest in anything, do it in your relationships.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's one of the things I was talking about earlier with success. What defines it, right? I think it's relationships. That's
Oh,
that's my thought.
yeah.
It's not money or
No.
who cares? I could fail a lieutenant's test a bunch more times, right?
Yeah.
It'd be
Definitely.
nice to pass, but my
Right.
relationships, like, do I have good relationships with the good people? You know, to me, that's what's important. You
Yeah.
know.
Her dad died last year, and her mom had a couple of strokes this year. So we've been through a lot of
Mm,
crazy stuff. But we were there for his final last little bit, and he had cancer, and it was a tough time to see him go. But to be in that moment, especially with our kids surrounding him, not, nothing matters, right? Just like you said, man,
mm,
nothing else matters. There's nobody cares about money in the end. It's all about relationship. Who's standing around you, and how have you invested in their life? Why are they there? It's because you invested in them somehow. So
yeah.
that's all that matters, is investing in the relationships, number one, that are around you. right? You got to be investing in your wife. You've got to be investing in your kids. Those are the go-to. If you're not investing in them, stop doing everything else because
Mhm.
that's the only thing that matters. And if you do that right, or at least try that, then it opens up the doors to allow that envelope to expand so that now you can have relationships with your friends and things like that. But man, it within those four walls of your house, you got to have that relationship strong with your wife and your kids because in the end, they're the only ones going to be there surrounding you, wishing you a happy life. So happiness is found in relationships. That's what I say, man. I appreciate you,
Yeah.
brother.
I appreciate you, man, and I appreciate you coming on, being honest, talking about things that I know, they're difficult to talk about, especially in the fire service.
Yeah,
I've been waiting to
absolutely.
get a level of shit for starting it, and so far the worst I got was, I wonder what he did. He's probably cheated on his wife or something like
Yeah,
that. I'm like, what?
yeah.
This is kind of the opposite. Those guys are idiots. But
Yeah, the only thing we can do is do the best that we can with anything that we do. And I love that you're pursuing this and you're making this something that's valuable to you and sharing it with the rest of us that maybe don't understand the value in it. I love what you're doing, and I love seeing your relationship out there. And just keep it up, man. Keep pushing, keep pursuing her, keep pursuing your kids, and don't be afraid to live life to the fullest.
thank you. And that being said, we'll end the podcast, man. Once again, it was great to have you on,
Yes,
and
sir.
I just want you to know that it is okay to love your wife.